All right, we're going right into it. This is an interview I was looking forward to. My man, Justin Brannan, coming up in 1 second. Justin, how are you?
Good. How are you, Will? Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on. For those who may not be aware, Justin Brannan is a member of the hardcore community transcending into politics. He was in a New York hardcore band called Indecision. Did a lot of union organizing early on in his career, worked his way up, and now he is a councilman for Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, Southern Brooklyn. I got a whole Bay Ridge, Diker Heights, Bath Beach, basically all the little neighborhoods under the Verrazano Bridge on the Brooklyn side.
Yeah, so man, talk about being ground zero for a lot that's going on right now. There's so much I could ask you, but okay, let me fire some stuff. I know. So you've been pretty on the mayor and the governor to start reopening New York now. And now, with these protests, is that still like an opinion of the community? Is that still where you stand? Are you pushing for the safe reopenings now, or are the protests sort of changing that perspective?
No, I mean, I think, look, I think for the past almost 4 months now, we've received reliably inconsistent guidance on how to survive this virus. And I think as a result of that, people now are more confused than ever and more restless than ever. I mean, back in February, we were basically told to keep calm and carry on as normal. Less than a month later, I was calling on the mayor to shut down the schools and shut down the playgrounds. So, it's moving very quickly. I mean, you always hear that COVID-19 is a novel virus. Well, what does that mean? That means that every day we're learning something new about it. I mean, and some of the guidance we got early on was wrong. And now, they told us early on, you don't got to wear a mask. It's not necessary. Now they've been telling us you got to wear a mask. It's mandatory. It's one of the only things besides social distancing that's going to prevent the transmission of this virus. So, you got a lot of mixed messages coming from the top. And for a guy like me, who I'm a local elected official, right? I mean, I have authority and jurisdiction over my little area, but I don't have the jurisdiction to make these big policy decisions for the entire state.
Sure, of course. Right. Do you think the issue with small businesses, because it's New York City, and a lot of this comes into maybe some of the class issues that a lot of people have been talking about on this and larger systemic issues right now. Is there maybe an agenda to just sort of deprioritize the small businesses in New York? I mean, you see a lot of small businesses closing right now. You don't see the relief coming fast enough. Like, to center capitalism, it makes you question the intent,
I mean, I think that, my wife, I'm biased, right? Because my wife is a small business owner. I got members of my staff who are small business owners. So this is very personal to me. I think it also comes down to, what they call consumer confidence or whatever, right? So even if we did open everything back up tomorrow, we don't know that people would be ready to come back. We don't know that people feel safe, right? Look, like you said, it's impossible to ignore the dynamics of race and class and socioeconomics here, because it's no surprise that a lot of the so-called open up protests have come from areas around the country and cities where, people are far away from widespread infection. So I think the folks that might think that this is a hoax, or they think it's a bunch of bullshit or whatever they think, they probably weren't directly impacted by it. If you're someone who has lost friends or relatives, or multiple friends and relatives, well, you have a very different take on what this feels like. And you're in no rush to get back to whatever normal means. If you've lost a lot of people, and it's no lie that communities of color have been impacted the most by this virus, right? And that's the conversation that's happening now. So, but I think there's look, restlessness is not a recognized metric that the CDC follows, but it's real, right? So I think a lot of politicians are reacting to that restlessness. But the problem we have now is that early on, the guidance that they gave us, we saw that it was working. We saw that, okay, if we stay home, we don't go outside unless it's for essential tasks, we saw the numbers coming down, right? And that was 3 months ago. Now the numbers are down. It's barely anything, right? It's barely a blip on the radar, but we're still working off of those same guidelines that were basically all or nothing guidelines from 3 months ago. And I think expecting people to, avoid human contact indefinitely is not realistic. So this moment calls for some updated guidelines, and I think that's what people are clamoring for. It's like, look, we did the right thing for 3 months. We've flattened the curve. What do we do now? And what I've been saying is, for 3 months, they've been telling us how to survive. Now they have to tell us how to live. There's no vaccine in sight. We have to learn how to live with this virus until there's a vaccine. We can't stay inside until we have a vaccine.
Sure.
So there's a real frustration out there, and it's manifesting itself in some very complicated ways, because, we had a meeting with some business owners this week, and look, they see hundreds of thousands of people on the street protesting. They don't understand why they can't open their business. I'm not making it's a false equivalency, right? I'm not making the equivalent that it's, protesting to end systemic racism is the same as, going to get brunch at your favorite restaurant.
No, but it's a numbers game, and if it's
for business owner, look, my wife has owned a business for 10 years. She doesn't know what's going to happen. It's 10 years you put into building a business. That's real, right? You can't ignore that. So, but the frustration is coming because we're not getting any guidance from the top. No one's telling us anything. We're doing these phases where they're doing the phase reopenings. No one knows what's going on. Like, and restaurants are like, well, if no one's going to tell me what's going on, I'm just going to start opening because I need to make money. I'm withering on the vine. So it's a real problem, and it's only exacerbating sort of what has become such a combustible moment in our country.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you staying on leadership to, get some answers and get a plan in place. I know a lot of people are struggling. I have a lot of friends in New York City, too, with businesses that are suffering right now. Yep. So I do appreciate your action there. I saw that you were, I was really excited to talk to you, too, because I saw you were pretty outspoken, vocally supporting the peaceful protests. I saw you tweeting Black Lives Matter stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is a politician. He's a councilman. He's in place. He's supporting this movement. So a couple questions for you there. Like, what are the protests like in Bay Ridge and in that area in Brooklyn right now? Because I know there's, a wealth of members of that community who have been, in this situation before and have been fired up. And, I haven't seen anything like really insane on the news, but I mean, you're on the ground there. So like, tell me what the mood is like in New York City in reaction to everything that's going on.
I mean, look, I think this is easily the most anxious time for our city and our nation, certainly that I can remember. There's many factors here. You have systemic racism, you have growing polarization and tribalism, you have widening inequality, you have just a total lack of leadership. You have, all of that compounded with the economic anxiety and the grief of COVID, which, like I said, has hit communities of color the hardest. It's made this one of the most combustible times that I can remember. One of the most combustible times of my lifetime, easily. What gives me hope is that you're seeing a lot of the movement as being youth-led. A lot of the protests that you're seeing are being led by young people of color, and they're kind of showing the old guys how it's done, right? And they're making us feel old. They're making us feel like we didn't do our job, and now the youth are stepping up to say, "Look, this is the world I want to live in, and I'm going to tell you how I want this world. I want this world to look, because someday I'm going to be running the show, and here's what we want it to look like." So you've seen just a lot of very positive. We've had 6 or 7 protests or rallies and vigils just in my district, which 10, 20 years ago, a Black Lives Matter protest in Bay Ridge, that's not happening, so this is a big, big moment for us. And, for those of us who have been pushing this for a long time, it's like we've come a long way and we don't want to go back now, and it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it's painful for a lot of people too, because this is a real reckoning. This isn't some new thing, right? And look, as a politician, I'm not in the business of telling people they're not experiencing what they tell me they're experiencing. And, you got to have the conversation around the fact that if you're black or brown, your experience with the police is going to be very different than if you're a white guy, right? And that's just reality. But we're also in a place right now because things are so goddamn polarized that, I come out, my stance has always been the same thing. I support my local cops. I have a great relationship with them. I need my local cops to do my job as an elected official. But I am against police brutality. And so are many cops that are on the job. But the system needs to be reformed. And it ain't going to happen just by wasting moments like this.
Sure.
I think this moment right now that we're in, it calls for us to really dig deep and harness that compassion and our ability to listen, especially to people of color, to listen to them honestly about the pain that they're feeling as we try to rebuild this city and rebuild this nation. I think no one wants to step outside their comfort zone. Like, why the hell do you want to do that? You want to just live your life and not worry about nothing. No one wants to have difficult conversations. No one wakes up in the morning and goes, let me talk about race relations today. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that was my morning. It's not fun. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, but this is what this moment calls for. And if you step outside your comfort zone, then maybe we could work towards making this world a better place. But I think and for me as an elected official, it's like I can't be a bystander, right? Like I can't, I could go to protest in solidarity, but I have the responsibility to act and to use the power of my office to make change happen, and I think we have to continue to call out racism and injustice in all its ugly forms, but talk is cheap. So, people want to know, what are you going to do about it? So we're working on legislation where we're trying to really push real meaningful police reform. We're talking about a lot of budget stuff, budget justice here, where you got public education is being cut left and right, but the police get more and more money.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about that, because this whole defund the police movement that's really just popped up, I really haven't seen that as a tactic to sort of curb some of the issues in the police system. You actually have a hand in this, and you agree with what everyone's saying. So, would you consider, proposed budgets that divert funds from police to other social services, to education, to rehabilitation, in your community?
So it's funny. The leader of the New York City Police Union actually made a great point. Obviously he's not for any of this, right? But he made a great point, and he said, if someone who calls 911, that's because every other agency, every other system has failed them. They call 911 because that's the only thing they think they have left to do, right? And a lot of people call 911 when their life isn't in danger. So that's a failure of our system. That's a failure of our other agencies in the city that make people think the only option I have right now is to call a guy with a gun, right? The only option I have is to call the police. And it's fucking heartbreaking that when you think about it like that. So my thing is that we can't live in a city where we're cutting off support for programs that play a crucial role in preventing crime just to invest more money in enforcing the law. If we're not investing in people, then of course we're gonna have to spend a lot of money punishing criminals, because we're not investing in the youth, we're not investing in people. Now, COVID has completely shot a hole through our city budget. We're looking at a $9 to $15 billion budget gap. So I think because of the protest, the timing of everything, I think some people think that this is a punitive thing, like we're looking to cut the NYPD's budget to punish them. That's not the case. The case is that NYPD budget has basically gone untouched for 20 years. And meanwhile, we've seen brutal cuts to public education, brutal cuts to just about every other, Department of Health, Youth Development, Housing and Preservation, Homeless Services. All these agencies get cut, but the cops never get cut. What the fuck is that, right? And I'm not talking about cutting the budget so that that people that we're jeopardizing public safety. I'm talking about, let's have a real conversation here. Why are we spending more money on the NYPD budget than we are on the Department of Health and Youth and Community Services combined, right? We're spending $6 billion a year on the NYPD budget. You're telling me they can't do their job for $5 billion?
Yeah. Can we have 9 tanks instead of 10 tanks? You know,
exactly. Demilitarization is another huge thing. Like, why do we need this? Why do we need tanks? Why do we need armored vehicles? What the fuck?
It's clear now that it's out there, it's clearly overfunded in several communities. And I feel like the need for the reform and bringing in these social services and rehabilitation and reinvesting into education as just a common baseline seems to be what every single person I've talked to would be in for. It doesn't remove a police force.
Honestly, too, when you talk to the cops, they're like, you know what? We should only be responding to calls where someone's life is in danger. Like, we get calls for all sorts of stuff that you call us, we'll show up and we'll try to help. But that's not what they're trained for. You know, they're not trained in mediating in a mental health, you know, some sort of crisis or you know, domestic dispute that isn't violent. Like, that's not their job. They're not trained for that. So why are we sending in people with guns for every fucking problem that we have, you know? And the cops agree. The cops are saying the same thing. They're saying, I don't know why they're sending us in here to do this. So but because everything has become so polarized and it's just easier for people who are lazy to kind of put everyone in buckets, it becomes this us versus them kind of thing. Like, we're not trying to punish anybody, you know? And like, when I think about cops in my neighborhood, I think about friends of mine, kids I grew up with, right? It's not like we're trying to demonize the cops. It's like, we want to get rid of bad cops and we want to get rid of police brutality. We want there to be accountability and equal application of the law. That's what we're fighting for. Yeah,
I mean, you make a ton of great points, man. You know, we're limited on time today. I could talk to you about this all day, but I'm glad to see you pushing to defund a little bit. I'm glad to see you supporting these protests. I'm going to do a quick giveaway with you while you're here.
Oh,
courtesy of Rachel and Tom.
Rachel showed me the stuff she's giving away. I don't even have any of this stuff.
Look at this. This is 1998 tour shirts, original posters.
That poster there is from our 96 European tour. We were on tour for 3 fucking months. We played like 50 shows in 56 days.
That's amazing.
It was miserable.
I love it. Well, this is where you were. This is where you are now, man. Hey, congratulations on, you know, being the person you are. And I really do appreciate you taking a minute. I know you're in chaos right now, so I'll let you get back to it. But
thank you, Bill.
I appreciate you, man.
All right, peace. Thanks.
Thanks, dude. Justin Brannan, New York City Councilman, Indecision guitar player. What a day, huh? What a day we're having here. All right. I got to keep this moving. I've already cut a minute into Matt Honeycutt's time. I'm sorry, Matt. Give me 1 second.